She just wanted her morning coffee, but one man's temper turned a quiet diner into chaos. In seconds, a slap echoed through the room, and silence followed. No one moved, no one spoke, because none of them knew who she really was, or who was coming for her. Before the story unfolds, subscribe now, because what happened next left the entire diner frozen in fear. It was a quiet Sunday morning at Maple Street Diner, the kind of place where regulars knew each other's names and the smell of bacon meant comfort. At her usual corner booth sat Mrs. Evelyn Brooks, a soft-spoken grandmother in her 70s. Every week she came here for one thing, a cup of coffee before church, always with the same gentle smile for everyone she met. The staff adored her. She'd ask about their families, leave generous tips, and always say, "Be kind no matter who's watching." To most, she was just a sweet old woman with kind eyes and steady hands. But there was more to her, something she never talked about, something hidden behind her calm. That morning, as sunlight spilled across her table, and the diner buzzed with small talk, a stranger walked in, loud, impatient, and already looking for someone to blame. What no one knew was that this would be the last peaceful morning the diner would ever see. The morning rush had just begun, when the bell over the diner door jingled again. A man in a sharp gray suit strode in, briefcase in one hand, ego in the other. Mark Ellison, a corporate attorney new to town, made sure everyone knew it. His voice carried like a challenge, snapping at the waitress when his coffee wasn't poured fast enough. Complaining about the slow service in small places like this, Evelyn watched quietly from her booth, hands folded around her cup. She'd seen men like him before, loud enough to drown out decency, but kindness was her way. So when the waitress passed by looking shaken, Evelyn offered a soft smile. "It's okay, dear. Some people forget how to be gentle." That's when it happened. As Evelyn stood to stretch her legs, her sleeve brushed Mark's arm. A single drop of coffee splashed onto his expensive shirt. He froze. The diner's chatter faded. Every eye turned toward him. "You old fool," he barked, slamming his cup down so hard it rattled the counter. "Do you even know how much this costs?" The room went still. The waitress tried to step in, but Mark's voice cut sharper. "People like you shouldn't even be here. Look what you've done." Evelyn's lips parted, trembling slightly. "I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean—" The sound came before the reaction. A slap sharp echoing through every corner of the diner. Cups froze midair. Forks stopped halfway to plates. The waitress gasped. An old man muttered, "Lord have mercy." Evelyn didn't cry. She didn't shout. She simply touched her cheek, eyes steady, filled with something stronger than fear. Dignity. Mark sneered, tossing a few bills on the counter. "That's for the mess," he muttered. "Keep the change." But before he could reach the door, a voice trembled behind him. "Sir, I think you should leave before this gets worse." It was the waitress, clutching her phone, camera light still faintly glowing. Mark smirked. "Go ahead, post it. Nobody cares about some old woman and her mistake." He pushed open the door, stepping into the sunlight like a man untouchable. Inside, silence lingered, heavy, uncomfortable. Evelyn returned to her booth and lifted her coffee again, though her hands now shook slightly. "I'm fine," she whispered when the waitress approached. "My son will handle it." The girl frowned, confused. "Your son?" Evelyn nodded slowly. "He doesn't like seeing me hurt." No one thought much of it. Not yet. But minutes later, the faint hum of engines began to rise outside. Deep, steady, synchronized. The kind of sound that made your heartbeat change rhythm. The waitress moved to the window. 5 black sedans rolled to a stop across the street. Men in dark suits stepped out, scanning the diner with cold precision. Evelyn didn't move. She simply stirred her coffee once more, eyes calm, as if this moment had been waiting all along. The waitress whispered, "Who are they?" Evelyn's gaze stayed fixed on the door. "My son's friends," she said softly, and before anyone could speak again, the diner door opened. The diner door swung open, and silence fell like a curtain. 5 men in black suits entered first, tall, composed, faces unreadable. Behind them walked Dominic Brooks, Evelyn's son. His presence alone changed the air, heavy with authority that didn't need to be spoken. He moved with the calm of someone who never had to raise his voice to be obeyed. Every eye followed him as he approached his mother's booth. He leaned down, kissed her forehead gently, and whispered something only she could hear. Then he turned, scanning the room with eyes that saw everything. "Where is he?" His tone was calm, but it didn't need volume to command fear. The waitress hesitated, hand shaking as she pointed toward the window. He's outside." Dominic nodded once. 2 of his men stepped out. Through the glass, the bully, Mark, was visible, still smirking beside his car, phone in hand. He looked up just as the suited men reached him. The smirk faded. Within seconds, he was escorted back inside, confusion painted across his face. "Hey, what is this? You can't just—" Dominic raised a hand. The room went still again. "You slapped her," he said softly, in front of witnesses. "For what, coffee?" Mark's voice faltered. It was an accident. I didn't mean—" Dominic stepped closer. "You didn't mean to hit her, or you didn't mean to get caught?" The man swallowed hard, his confidence unraveling. Dominic turned to the waitress. "Delete nothing. Let the world see what kind of man he is." Evelyn reached for her son's arm. Her voice was gentle but firm. "No violence Silence, Dominic? Not for me. He nodded slowly, jaw tightening. Then we'll do it your way. He opened a folder his men handed him. Photographs, documents, headlines, corporate fraud, bribery, tax evasion. He dropped them on the table in front of Mark. I don't raise my hand, Dominic said quietly. I raise consequences. Mark's face went pale as the room watched him crumble under the weight of his own secrets. And in that still diner, justice didn't roar, it whispered. By evening, the story had already reached every corner of the city. The video from that diner, of the slap, the silence, and the moment Power quietly walked in, was everywhere. But what the world didn't see were the hours that followed. Evelyn never demanded justice. She never needed to. Her silence spoke louder than any outrage. Dominic made one call to a newsroom, not a courtroom. By nightfall, every hidden truth about Mark Ellison's corruption was exposed. His clients dropped him, his firm erased his name, and his own words from that morning, "People like you shouldn't even be here," echoed back at him through 1,000 comment sections. But Evelyn, she never mentioned his name again. The next Sunday, she was back in her booth at Maple Street Diner, smiling softly at the waitress, asking about her family, sipping her coffee as though nothing had changed, except everything had. People came from across town just to see her, some to apologize for staying silent, others to thank her for her grace. Reporters asked how she felt about what happened. Her answer was simple. My son reminded him what consequences look like. I just reminded him what forgiveness feels like. Her words spread further than any headline. Schools replayed them in classrooms. Community leaders quoted them in speeches. Because what Evelyn showed wasn't just strength, it was restraint. A kind of power this world rarely sees, but desperately needs. Dominic never spoke publicly about that day. He didn't have to. Every act of kindness he funded quietly in his mother's name told the story for him. And for those who watched it unfold, one truth remained. Dignity is the loudest form of justice. When cruelty raised its hand, she didn't fight back. She rose above it. So the question is, how many times must kindness be tested before the world finally learns that true power doesn't need to shout? If this story moved you, don't let it stop here. Hit subscribe to hear more true inspired stories that reveal the power of humanity. Even in its darkest moments, leave a comment below. Tell us what lesson you took from Evelyn's story, because your voice might be the one that inspires someone to stand up, speak out, or forgive. And remember, kindness is strength. We'll see you in the next story. Until then, stay aware, stay kind, and never stay silent.